They stole our citizens' homes and their minds. And something much, much worse. Their freedom.
Helldivers 2 in 2025. Now there's two reasons you clicked on this video. Either you haven't played Helldivers 2 yet, or the more likely reason being you put the game down back in 2024, or you're wondering if it's worth coming back to. Well, listen up Helldiver, because now is the perfect time to rejoin the fight and help spread democracy, because whether you enjoy solo play or co-op action, the game offers one thing a lot of games lose sight of, and that's freedom.
Prove to yourself that you have the strength and the courage to be free.
The freedom to just have fun whilst playing a game. Let's get into it. The beauty of Helldivers 2 is it's as difficult as you want it to be. You can adjust the difficulty at any time outside of a mission, making it easier to play solo on lower difficulties, or you can ramp up the challenge when things start feeling too easy, or when you've got a team to watch your back. And that being said, Helldivers 2 is designed for co-op, and it shows. The game dynamically scales enemy spawns based on team size, so fewer players means more enemies. And if one player splits up from the rest of the squad, that lone player will face significantly more enemies than those who stay together, which keeps the gameplay intense and encourages teamwork. Speaking of gameplay, 2025 brings us a more balanced war. Throughout 2024, balance was a constant discussion, but since the Omens of Tyranny update, Helldivers 2 has never felt more balanced. Weapons, stratagems and enemy encounters have all been fine-tuned to make sure no playstyles feel too overpowered or useless. The difficulty curve is smoother and enemy AI has been improved to be far more dynamic and challenging without feeling unfair. Being a Helldiver though has never been an easy job, and now with the arrival of the Illuminate, there are 3 factions to liberate and spread democracy to, each demanding different skills and tactics to overcome. And that's what I love most about Helldivers 2. Each enemy faction brings unique enemies and challenges, making each warfront for each faction feel like a completely different game. The Terminids, or bugs, are just pure chaos like Starship Troopers in full swing.
Come on, you if you wanna live forever!
Swarming hordes, tank-like enemies and underground ambushes make for a brutal and overwhelming experience even for veteran Helldivers. Facing the automatons, or bots, gives the game more of a Ghost Recon Terminator feel, requiring stealth and tactics. Expect heavily armoured mechs, aerial drones and fortified outposts, requiring both strategy and efficient loadouts to overcome. And the newest faction to oppose Super Earth are the Illuminate, which throws you into an alien zombie-style survival game, fighting in more urban locations. Not only will the Illuminate try to overwhelm you with sheer numbers, but their elite units are tough as fuck and use strong-ass energy weapons, keeping you constantly on your toes. In my opinion though, the weakest of the 3 enemy factions to face are the automatons. It may sound counterintuitive, I know, big ass mechs with both aggressive melee and heavy range attacks, as well as big ass AT-AT type units. But don't let their intimidating appearance fool you. With the right setup, they're fairly easy to handle on most difficulties below suicide. Don't believe me? Check out my live streams.
Go. 3 my orbital as well. 2 orbitals on it and a 400 kg bomb. If that don't take it out, then it won't.
Nothing will.
The second toughest are the Illuminate, which it's not so much the grunt units, which are a bit like zombies that you can easily train like in Call of Duty. The real challenge comes from the elite units, which are harder to take down and pack a serious punch. The ones with jetpacks in particular ensure you have nowhere to run. Speaking of which, the jetpack elites are probably the most unbalanced aspect of the game right now. They can just soak up shots like nothing else, which is just a bit ridiculous. But the toughest enemies by far are the bugs. They bring pure chaos. Whilst the Illuminate can swarm you, it's nothing compared to the bugs. The bugs will attack from all directions, and as you're fighting, a bug hole will open up right beneath your feet, and they're not afraid to send 6 Bile-Titans at you all at once either. On higher difficulties, bugs are the one enemy you should not take lightly. Since the game's launch in 2024, new missions have been added, such as the new Deep Holdout Defense mission, where you defend Super Earth missile silos. And unlike the original defense missions, high walls surround the silos you need to protect, and enemies are forced into narrow choke points through a series of walls and player-controlled gates. The mission is to protect the silos at the back of the base long enough to launch 8 rockets, which is easier said than done. Now, as well as new missions, many new enemies have been added to the game since launch. some only appearing in the higher difficulties, forcing players to rethink the loadouts and strategies such as the Impaler, a terminid species with extreme armour and a head made up of 3 blades which it burrows through the ground to stop any Helldiver trying to make a quick getaway by impaling and throwing them into swarms of bugs. You've got Factory Striders, often called Walkers, which are essentially AT-ATs from Star Wars. And they're just as intimidating. They're the automaton's new walking behemoths and are ridiculously tough. Being able to withstand a 500 kg bomb, they also come equipped with mounted cannons and dual miniguns, so they're not to be taken lightly. The automatons have also developed new tanks that I must say took me by surprise when playing a defence mission. The first is a shredder tank, which swaps out the heavy cannon for a quad-barrelled machine gun, which, as its name suggests, shreds enemies. The second is a barrage tank that swaps out the standard heavy cannon for a multi-rocket launching system, enabling it to bombard its enemies from a distance with heavy firepower. So trust me when I say, if you've not played this game in a while, there's a lot of new stuff to come back to. Now, this next point is more for players who haven't played Helldivers 2 yet, but it can also serve as another reason why this game's awesome, and that's the planets and environments themselves. I love that planets have unique environmental effects that completely change how battles play out. Thick fog that reduces visibility, making you rely on teamwork and sound, meteor storms that randomly bombard the terrain and potentially Helldivers, and fire tornadoes that sweep across battlefields, forcing constant movement if you don't want a fiery death. These elements don't just look great, they actively shape the way you play, and if you keep your eye out whilst planetside, you may also find an Easter egg or two. Helldivers 2 had a decent amount of weapons and armours at launch, but have since added more, giving us a better variety of unique builds for different missions and playstyles. And due to the balance updates throughout 2024, there are a lot more balance, meaning you need to think about what weapons and armour to use before going into the mission, which makes the game a lot more tactical and stops everyone from running the exact same loadouts. Since launch, stratagems have also seen major upgrades, adding more game-changing tools to help you on the battlefield, such as the Armoured Personnel Carrier, a fast durable vehicle for transporting across terrain quickly, mech suits, which allows Helldivers to walk into hordes of enemies using heavy firepower to dominate the battlefield, and the new anti-tank employment, which is just ridiculously powerful. When used correctly, it allows Helldivers to just bombard their enemies with highly accurate and extremely explosive shells. It's honestly my favourite stratagem to use against the automatons. Now, I've got to give a shout out to Arrowhead for this next part, because it's one of Helldivers 2's best features, and that's its player-friendly monetization. Super credits, used to buy in-game items such as war bonds or armours, are earnable in-game, meaning you can unlock everything without spending any extra money. Monetization in Helldivers 2 is a choice, not a requirement. And better yet, when new war bonds are added, the previous ones remain indefinitely, so there's no FOMO in the game either. And honestly, it's a relief, because FOMO's a bitch, especially in this economy. Okay, so you may have noticed I think this game is pretty fucking awesome. However, there's a few things missing which would make this game perfect. First, the game needs a firing range, or some sort of testing area to try out weapons and stratagems before going into missions. With so many options available, it would be great to be able to experiment with loadouts before heading into battle. I'm really hoping this feature gets added in a future update, as it's something that I've been wanting since the game's launch. The second thing I'd love to see are planets with multiple biomes and multiple enemy factions. It'd definitely make the worlds feel more immersive, with diverse landscapes and unique urban areas. Having Earth-like planets to explore would be sweet, and imagine fighting a horde of bugs, then suddenly being ambushed by automatons from the rear. Or, imagine seeing enemy factions fighting each other, trying to complete objectives and shit whilst a huge ass battle between bugs and bots is going on. The final thing I believe the game needs are, of course, raids. Imagine 8 to 12 Helldivers taking on massive enemy swarms, solving puzzles and battling colossal sized bosses. It'd add that endgame content feel it's currently missing. So honestly, right now is a great time to join the fight and serve a nice hot cup of liberty to your enemies. But what do you think of Helldivers 2 in 2025? Are you still playing it? If not, why not? And do you think Helldivers 2 should be released on Xbox? Let me know down in the comments. Until next time peeps, stay frosty.